reallocation of the PML that's causing WISC to have a bump in its ACL.
Got it. And I was just asking if we're starting to de-risk inland Texas, if that made any difference, and effectively quickly bring us back to 400. But if it's PML,
it's PML.
That's moot. Okay.
And it's also a reserving charge and a reinsurance recoverable charge because of Ida and Nicholas at Q3, which will obviously go down as that's paid.
Got it. Thank you.
We're going to have an update on the merger, but it's also going to be merged. The extent to which the companies are eventually merged, then some of that goes, the allocation of PML between the two kind of disappears.
So that's really the next slide, shows the RBC, I think, on a combined basis.
Right.
Right. There you go.
Right. And the $20 million surplus in the combined company, we're at 352. And that $400 minimum RBC goes away at the point that they're merged. 400%, sorry.
Boy, this is a big exclamation point around the benefit from a capital point of view of combining the companies.
Yep. Certainly on an RBC basis, yes.
Great, thank you. Those are excellent exhibits, Rachel.
Thanks.
All right, so next on the agenda, now we're going to move into the actual, do you want to give an update on the storms, Deanne?
Sure, we want to do that. Yeah, the next slide is an update on Ida, or I should say on the storms. I mean, as Michael Millett already spoke to, there definitely is extensive damage in Louisiana, and I think what we're finding is, 100-mile-an-hour winds well inland, and for our claims team, we're seeing a lot of large trees falling on homes. I'm sure Ben can speak to your experience as well, but it's apparently a heavily treed area, so that is a pretty common loss and a large loss. But Missy, Trudy, Rachel and Eddie and I all sat around, and Raphael with the modeling and went through various looks at it, and we came up with our initial ultimate estimate of a range of $48 million to $63 million with a midpoint of $55 million. So that's what we're working with, our midpoint of 55.
Are you seeing increased severity? And if so, how is that reflected in your estimate?
You want to talk to severity because you did an estimate on that.
Yeah, I'm talking specifically for Ida.
Right. Right now, the severity on the initial reserves is sitting under 25,000. A lot of those are just initial set. But we do anticipate a higher severity. So we took past events, we increased them by the 25% that we're sort of seeing in the ballpark, seeing in the construction increases. And then also a lot of these are very large, they're larger losses. So we're expecting a higher severity in Ida, but very few have materialized to where they've had a claims adjuster actually inspect them on the ground, and set those bespoke yet.
We're getting there. I think this last week or so that we've had a lot more at the time we came up with the initial estimate, there's very little. But it's definitely, it's going to be a much larger average loss, certainly than a Nicholas, which is more claims, but smaller, much lower severity. Our net retention for Ida is $2 million. The billing's already been sent out to the reinsurers for the initial cash call. So that's with Guy Carpenter and the reinsurers. Right?
Yeah. We requested $25 million. So
can I just ask, when I look at this chart, estimated gross loss, that's to you.
Correct.
So this is showing that your min-max was 747 from air, 962 from RMS. Your averages were 25, Karen Clark 32. and you're using 55. How do I string those? Because it looks like you've got three averages from the three models that range from 25 to 32, and you're using 55. And I'm sure that the reason is good. And in fact, I already divided 55 by 0.003, which is your market share. And it comes out to 18 billion, which is more or less in line with where the modeling firms estimate Louisiana had a loss. So that's refreshing. But how did you get to 55?
Yeah, go ahead, Missy. We did a lot of different looks, to be honest.
So we started off at like day 10 on a frequency severity basis. So as I said, we started with past hurricanes at 23 to 25, and we increased that as high as 35. We got to a claim count around between 1,600 and 2,200, where we were pretty comfortable with the 1,800. We mapped our exposures in the track of Ida, and we had just over 2,000. So we were pretty comfortable that we're going to have between 1,800 and 2,000. In past storms, we've seen a 20 to 25% close with no pay. So we know even if there's a claim, they're not all going to have a payment. So we were pretty comfortable with that 18 to 2,000 range. And so we have a range on a frequency severity basis of 48 to 70 in a very extreme situation. And then, as you said, we took the modelers' total estimates and applied the 0.3% market share and got to between 50 and 80-ish, but the 80 includes offshore. It includes some perils and coverages we don't have. So we went to the low side of that range. Actually, the models running through our exposure is the lowest estimate we have. So we put less weight into that, also knowing that we would need to load those models for loss adjustment expenses. So we looked at all those estimates, and we kind of kept falling out in that, high 40s to 60 range. And so that's where we got to.
All right. That sounds very respectable. I'm just struck by the fact that we're using a loss estimate that's approximately double the average of the three modeling firms.
It's kind of similar to their max events, really.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. Except
so the min events, we kind of looked at like, okay, given that, these low ones just didn't make sense, but the top, the higher ones all really were more in line.
Based on the flow of claims that you're seeing, are you comfortable with this estimate?
I still think, where are we?
Yeah, the 1,800 claims is still holding. As I said, the severity is going to be a little bit slower to come through, but we're under 25 currently. So going as high as 30 or 35, I think leaves us comfortable. As of
the 1,800 holding, how many new claims are you getting in a day at this point?
I don't have the daily number. As of now, we have just under 1,600, and using past large events, we were 90% reported by day 23 that we're at now.
Well, I would toss another item in the pot for you, which is that unlike Katrina, I've watched this day to day. At this moment, I believe that essentially all the power in Louisiana is on. And it was all on in New Orleans and Baton Rouge a couple weeks ago. So this is nothing like that. And to me, a situation where you have power on and roads are open, you will get your claims in faster.
Sorry, the 90% is based on our claims.
Yeah.
Not Katrina, not an industry Katrina percentage.
Got it. No, I'm just saying that this couldn't be more different. I was in Katrina in December of 2005, 3 months after the storm. And at that point, large sections of the city were without power. Large sections of the city were still abandoned. and the city still looked like a ruin.